Welcome to Heartman Dialogues, where we explore deep questions and open-hearted conversations about living a meaningful life to your full potential. Do you ever sit down these days and wonder there's so many jargons about AI and everybody's talking about you're losing your job? So today we're going to sit with someone who's going to explain to us, are we losing our jobs or not? So this is a friend, but also a colleague that I work with. And he's very passionate about technology. I think he breathes technology. You should hear him speak about technology. So today we're going to discuss understanding the AI shift with Dion Kapfumvuti. I hope I pronounced the surname right. He always calls us out for pronouncing it wrong.
You got it spot on.
Thank you. Welcome, Dion.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
Okay, how are you?
I'm good. Just sort of enjoying life in many ways. Going outside, taking walks, reading books.
Enjoying the little things in life.
Yes. It's becoming more and more important.
Okay, before AI comes and spoils it. Kidding. Okay, so when was the first time you were curious or in awe about technology? Like in your life, when did you realize, wow, this is it?
Wow. So if you ask my parents, right, or my family, they'd say probably when I was like 2.
Wow.
Because I was sticking the forks in our computer when I was a kid. But, we always had a computer at home, multiple computers. So I always used to, they were one of my toys, kind of. My favorite toy, in fact, because it had very bright lights and video games.
Okay.
So I really did like playing with them. And then I started getting very curious about it. I remember I was about 9 years old. And I had the chance I got a netbook. I don't know if you remember netbooks.
I remember that.
So just before the iPads came out, they made these really tiny laptops, very small, about the size of 15 centimeters, I guess. It's very small things. It was basically an iPad. And I remember it because when my dad gave it to me, it had Windows XP, way back then. But then the little book it came with, they had a little tutorial welcome guide. It had games on it, but the games were on Linux. So I had to figure out how to change it. So that whole process was really fun, and that's really the start. It was the ideas of just this machine you can actually, manipulate it, make it do cool things, and it's always been what can I make this thing do?
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Interesting. So I remember we have had this conversation. You grew up you have had a very diverse upbringing. You grew up in South Africa, Botswana, then Tanzania. Do you think and I know those countries have different rhythms in terms of access and exposure. So do you think the diverse upbringing contributed to your views in technology and your curiosity?
I remember one particular moment when we first came to visit here, and at home for us when we were living in Botswana. I think it's less about the country and more about the family or the kind of culture that you have at home. Because at home computers were just another they were just they were just sort of all over the place. There wasn't a specific place. We didn't treat it like it was sacred that much. We just sort of had it as another thing in the house. But I remember going to my cousins, and their computer had a very special desk, and it had to have a little cloth on top of it if you're not using it, and I was just you have to ask to use it, and I was just huh? I just want to go and just play with it a bit and see what happens. So I think that there's different approaches to technology, and it's not really about which is good or which is bad, but I think that different approaches to technology makes you see the technology differently.
Yeah. Okay. So your curiosity was there because of the exposure. It was there. I would say parents probably encouraged it. They were not really frowning upon you using it. So
yeah, my dad was a big
tech
fan of tech as well. He was an educator, and his main interest was just how cool this stuff is. He used to also tweak things up if there's something. He was a man's man. He liked fixing stuff and. If something breaks in the house, you don't call the plumber. I'll get my tools and I'll figure it out myself,
Okay.
So he extended that onto technology. So he didn't want just to go and get an iMac. And we had an iMac for some time, but he hated it because he couldn't do anything with it. it was a tool, but he wanted something that was just like, like you can play around with it, change this, change that, and he did a lot of that type of stuff. And I just sort of followed through with it as well. So I used to do a lot of tweaking and changing. But he was more of a hardware man. I was more of a software person.
Okay, now being a software man, right now with this, there are a lot of buzzwords. AI is there. So, how do you explain AI and the shift to a layman who just hears the word, is not in the corporate environment, probably, yeah. So they're just hearing the word AI, and some say it will make your life better. Some say, nope, this thing is going to change the whole world. So, how do you explain AI to someone who just hears the word?
So when you think of AI, it's a lot of things. But in short, it would essentially be the ways in which we can make technology imitate human capacity to do stuff. Hey, I'm going to the movies tomorrow. What movie should I watch? Just a question to you.
F1, Formula One?
The F1 movie.
Yeah.
So what you've just done in your brain is a very complicated process of sort of assessing the question and giving an answer. In this case, giving me a recommendation. So you've had to do processing a lot of data in your head to figure out that, okay, I should suggest the F1 movie. You could have said Toys R Us. I mean, wait, no, that's not a movie. The Toy Story movie. You could have said Cars 3. I didn't say any of the one that's in the cinema. But you sort of thought of all of that. So AI is just making a machine imitate that. And it already does that a lot. If you open Netflix, Netflix is basically telling you what you should watch every freaking day, every time you open it, right?
Just like a human, but without a heart.
I mean, it is. It's just that the way it's doing it, the interface is different. A lot of us think of AI and we think of like, iRobot. Did you watch that movie? Or Transformers, not Transformers, but Terminator. But I think those movies make us think of AI of that way because of the fact that the movies use a lot of effort to not just imitate it through the stuff that it does, but also imitate it by how it looks like.
Okay.
So the AI robots look human. So you kind of can relate. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? He was the Terminator, an AI, so to speak, right?
Okay.
But he looks like a human being. So we're thinking of it more that way. But it's not, doesn't have to look like a human being, but it's like it's imitating in different ways.
Like even decision making, interpreting things, everything.
But it's imitating, remember, it's not doing it, it's pretending, it's artificial.
Okay. So if you say it's artificial, it's like a human maybe making decisions or giving you like analysis or so. From a user perspective,
Yeah.
in an African or Tanzanian context, I'm not talking about corporate. Like someone tells you like they're starting their business somewhere, I don't know, in the not remote area, but here in Tanzania, and they're asking, how can AI help me, or how can I use this human who's helping me create ideas or decision making? How can I use it here in an African context? I would say.
It's a good question.
Because I think most times you imagine it has to be used in a big bank. It has to be used in corporate world, not in my normal business that I'm starting here. Yeah.
The biggest part about it is understanding what you need. Because AI is meant to, what AI can do, in fact, is it can uplift that which is already there. Because it's essentially relying on a lot of data. And data is everything. The biggest challenges a person would face is, you're going to leverage something that is trained on an environment that is quite different from yours. Lots of AI doesn't really have a lot of good data about what African businesses look like. So you're not going to get a lot of advice that is particularly helpful. But at the same time, it is trained on a lot of NGO data. So you find NGOs do a lot of research about this stuff. Maybe they can do research on understanding the challenges of small businesses. I'm sure there's reports about those sorts of things. So it's trained on all of that. But how much can it understand your context? And, that's a bit more difficult. So I guess you could use it, but you have to be strategic about what kind of use cases are you actually going to get benefit for, rather than just saying that, okay, I'm going to just use it, or I'm just going to use it for this. I think some of the use cases I've already seen so far are very interesting and very realistic, but also kind of scary.
Like an example?
Lots of image generation. So I've been quite surprised to see massive posters and banners, huge banners of just like AI generated content. And I think there's even one on Oyster Bay, Planet Pizza, I think. They I would say that they were leveraging AI for some of the marketing that they did.
Is that what they call
I
vibe
cannot
marketing?
verify.
Or the vibe marketing is a different thing?
No, the vibe marketing, very interesting. Vibe coding as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the kind of stuff you shouldn't do.
Okay.
Do not do that. Especially in an African context. Look, there's a whole debate about vibe coding in the software development. I don't really know if it's a debate because I'm very opinionated about it, but I guess it's I would say it's a debate about whether it makes sense to do it or not.
Okay.
But I wouldn't get into that debate. But I would get into the factors that in an African context, we don't have a lot of data that those systems are relying on. Because we're not thinking of AI as a technology. We're also thinking of AI as, well, platforms that already exist. When you look at these, because most of the time, just to be clear, we are specifically talking about LLMs, right? These large language models, right? ChatGPT, Claude, and those. That's a specific kind of AI. It's not AI in its totality. In fact, it's a very little small part of AI. AI is a lot of things. Prediction systems, recommendation systems. TikTok is the first AI that people started getting used to, because you open the thing and it starts recommending videos to you. That's kind of AI, But for the AI for business, when we look at the LLMs, these large language models, they're trained on a lot of foreign data. So the insights it can provide you are not going to be tailored to your business as well, but it's still useful as input. So you can get maybe a different perspective and incorporate that into what you're doing, for example. So I've seen a lot of that happening as well.
Okay. So you mentioned something like there's not a lot of data in African context. So what do you think are the risks of, let's say, us just being passive users? Like a tool is generated. An example would be an education tool that is generated elsewhere, passed down to us, and we just use it, versus being co-creators. Like we generate the education tools. Examples are in African context. You factor in, let's say, if it's Swahili language in there. So what are the risks of us being just passive users rather than creating our own? And maybe creating our own, one would think maybe it takes a lot of work or capital, or I don't know what would hinder us from co-creating. But what are the risks that we're having right now? Because I think right now we're just using it as we get a tool from there, we use it from our side.
Yeah, there's two elements to that. The first one is about a concept that is becoming quite big now. Well, it's been big for a while, but it's also becoming a big conversation here in Tanzania, and that's the concept of data sovereignty. A lot of countries have regulations, and as a cloud solutions engineer, we work a lot with data, and different countries have very, very clear laws about where data regarding that country should reside. And we have the same in Tanzania now. It's about data privacy. That's the way it's sort of, and it is really about data privacy when you're talking to the average citizen, because for them it's mostly about, we want your data to be safe, we want your data to be within your control, we want all these foreign businesses to get your consent to collect your data. If they do collect your data, the data has to be, at least a copy of the data has to be stored in Tanzania. So there's different regulations and laws that sort of create this framework of what we call data sovereignty. So that would be like the first thing that where we need to actually enforce that a lot more, because we don't enforce it a lot. And the reason we don't enforce it a lot is also a question of, do we have the infrastructural capacity to hold all of Tanzanian data? Do we have enough data centers? Do we have enough? And these are not the questions. These are not rhetorical questions necessarily. They are real questions that we can ask. I haven't done the research to know what that looks like. And we do have quite a number of data centers, by the way. It's not that we don't have anything. We do have a lot of data centers, and they are being currently used. People are following the law, but I'm thinking mostly of the big tech companies, for example. And when you have a Netflix account, is Netflix really holding data? I don't think so. But the question then is enforcing data sovereignty, number one. And number two is about, thinking of us as passive consumers. Well, it depends on how you see it, right? Because there's different ways to look at that. I think, for example, there was a study recently that MIT published where they proved, or they're claiming that if you use ChatGPT, or people that use ChatGPT have less, they have less critical thinking use. They can think critically, but they don't use it. Very fascinating study.
Okay, so I'm just thinking it from my personal perspective. Like, I use ChatGPT, let's say, for probably even things that don't need critical thinking. So it's just it's just helping me, like, maximize my time, or instead of you thinking about, I don't know, I'm trying to find ideas. I have an idea, but to structure it, to put it like in end to end, I just go to ChatGPT and ChatGPT does it. So I don't have to do that. I already came up with the idea in the first place. So, for example, I can use ChatGPT with as simple as, I have 500,000 shillings a month. What can I buy for groceries to take me to the end of the month? It gives me the whole budget in an African context. Like, you can have mandazi for 2 weeks, you can have this and that.
I find it cool. I don't know how it knows the price for mandazis, honestly. That's insane.
Yeah, so you can't say they don't have critical thinking. They do, but it's just that they will use their critical thinking to do something else instead of staying with my laptop in an Excel doing like 500,000, looking at what can I buy, what can I buy. So I'm not sure I agree with that study, or
No, but it's a good point. But that's the thing. This is the problem, and this is the biggest problem with AI right now. The coverage is not good, in my opinion. There's too much fear mongering, and there's too much hype. So they are both going at the same time, which is very strange. Like, people are getting very scared, but people are also getting very excited at the same time. It wasn't really like this with the internet, I don't think. But what was the study about? It was that they had 3 groups. One had ChatGPT, one had Google search, one had nothing. And they would just like write some essays, high school essays, about different topics. And over time, the ChatGPT users would just throw the prompt to ChatGPT, change some sentences, and send out the essay. But you can see that is 100% passive use. The Google search, there was a lot of, so they measured actually the brain activity as they were doing this. It's not just about doing, they were measuring the brain activity.
Okay.
And they found that the AI ChatGPT folks, there are specific parts of the brain that indicate critical thinking and creativity and such. They just were not connecting at all. But people with the Google search, it was connecting a bit, just slightly mild weaker than it was for the people who are doing nothing. That is clearly in a very specific setting, right? It's an essay where you need to produce output. You've given a good point. You use it, let's say, to find a budget. And the reality is, it's all about what you're trying to get out.
Out of it, yeah.
If you're trying to get out, for example, information, it's a pretty reliable thing to do, I guess. The only problem is that it hallucinates, so it can make stuff up. But in this case, I'm not, because I don't want people to think I can use AI to get information. Great, I need to find out about all of my scientific issues or my health issues. Don't do that, because it just makes stuff up. But it's interesting because you're just looking for output in terms of, you're just looking for a perspective of something, and you can use it as an input for your decision making and your actions. That's a really good use of AI. But of course, understanding its limitations. But what the problem comes in is when people act as if AI is producing what I can call reasoned content. It's not. It's not reasoned. There's no thinking that's going there. It's imitating.
So where does it get the information that it gives you? Like where? Because it says it's generative AI.
Yeah.
They actually make up their content, but from a human perspective. It's like the brain, like the question that you asked me, what movie should I watch? And I say Formula One. And the reason I say Formula One is because Formula One right now is in the cinemas. And I know that. So it came from somewhere.
Yeah.
So if AI is also getting the information, it's generating information, it means it gets it from somewhere.
That's
so
right.
why would you say it's not reasonable? It means it exists. It's not like they make it up from nowhere, right?
No, it does exist. But when I say reasoned, I mean it more in the sense of, as I said, AI is imitating. It's a very important concept to understand. It's imitating thought. When you think, I'm not a neuroscientist, but when you think, there's a chain of synapses that are sort of, again, I did warn you, I'm not a neuroscientist. Chain of synapses that are sort of moving across in your brain. The way we think about it is that thoughts are being connected together. You're thinking the thoughts, you know? So you have to say these kinds of sentences when you're talking about AI. You're thinking thoughts. And you actually understand it and feel it as a thought. The AI doesn't do that. It just connects. I mean, it's the same. It's a similar concept. It connects ideas that are represented as words, and those words are basically just zeros and ones. And then it just sort of connects them together because it's all in a graph. Think of it like as a big space, a cloud, so to speak. And like the way these ideas are put in that cloud are based on some kind of relationship they all have with each other. So just as a silly example, you could have a big space and then you'd have a point somewhere on the place called King, right? The word King. And if you go the distance, right? The distance from which you would have, let's say, a distance that would be equivalent to where you would find, for example, woman. From the center moving to that point of woman, there's a certain distance. If you went down that distance from king, you'd get queen. So it's somehow saving all of that. But a lot, that's where you see this whole idea of the context window and the idea of how many parameters does it have. It's how many of these thoughts does it have and how it's able to connect them. But it's not actually like in the way that human beings think. It doesn't have the capacity to actually do that. Because when I ask that question, there's a lot of things going through your mind. You're thinking about first of all, movie. You're also maybe thinking, what kind of movies would Dion like?
Yes.
You're also thinking, and the AIs cannot do that.
So there's like a limit to it, to what they can think.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but then when you say that, I listened to this guy. They call him the godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton.
Yeah.
So he's very convinced that it will come a point AI will operate without needing us.
Yes.
So if they will operate without needing us. Right now, you have to have an input. It will come a point they will run, even if it's, let's say, politics or anything. They will run without us. So they will replace. I mean, I'm calling them they. Like, okay, AI will replace human beings, and that's where the fear is about losing our jobs and all that. So when you say they have a limit of thinking, how are they going to be able? Because human beings evolve every day. There's no limit. That's why maybe we cannot be replaced. But if they have a limit, how are they going to replace us?
That limit is very high. And that limit can be anywhere, but it does exist, but we don't know where it is. I think people's fear is that that limit is too close. And some people believe that limit is beyond what we can do. This is why you have this idea of AGI, artificial general intelligence. What we have right now, what we should actually be calling it is ASI, not AI.
What's ASI?
Artificial specific intelligence, because each platform does a very specific thing. ChatGPT is just a word generator. It just generates words. There are AIs that can generate voice. I mean, technically, ChatGPT can also generate voice. You can make videos, but imagine one thing that can do everything. But when I say everything, I just mean in the sense of, basically, it can like control all of your apps. In terms of Hinton's concern, it's been known for decades. It's the concept of what he describes is not new. It's been a conversation. I remember reading about it back in 2015. And it was just about the concept of the idea that it's about is essentially thinking about, we get to a point where AI can create itself. So you can create an AI app that creates other AI apps.
Okay.
And at that point, and then the second thing is that you'd want an AI app that can essentially improve. So if it can create it, it can obviously improve it, right? So if you have an AI app that can improve another AI app, then the AI app that it's creating is going to be even better, right?
Yeah.
But then that one is also going to do the same thing and say, oh, I'm really good, and you've made me to do this. I'm also going to create an AI app. And that AI app is going to be even better. So there's this concept that is just going to keep going all the way to the... So by the time it gets onto the second or third rung of that whole ladder, that's the point that we say that humans need not apply. Because at that point, human beings are not going to be central to the process, because we are not even going to comprehend what the hell is going on. Because we are going to... Because right now, we don't really know how AI works. That's another funny thing. People don't realize this. Like, we understand what's happening. Like, the actual calculations can be written down one by one. But the output is what confuses us, because we don't actually understand why the heck ChatGPT can do what it can do. Like, the fact that you can ask it a question, it can remember it, it can give you an answer. Like, yeah, sure, it's the next probability word. It has a huge database. But how is it possible that just because you gave it so much data, it can mimic intelligence?
We have created the human brain. So it's like the same thing. I don't know what you're thinking. You can give an answer. I don't know what's going on in your mind. So if we created that, then I think there's a risk of how far we can control it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. But I'm not worried about that so much. I don't think that we should be that worried about losing control over AI. That's not really a concern that I have.
So, okay, if that's not the worry we should have in terms of career prospects or the future, who's going to be left behind? Like a person right now.
Freelance writers they are being left behind. So freelance writing has gone off a cliff. And it's very unfortunate, but it's what's happening, because people are not using writers to write stuff anymore. They're just writing on ChatGPT. So they're having everything being generated. And the people that will be left behind are the people that cannot find creativity.
But AI is taking all the creativity.
It's not. AI is it's a gimmick. A lot of the stuff that you're seeing with AI now, if you have any memory of the early 2000s and how the internet was being handled then, you had all sorts of interesting companies. If you remember, pets.com, you had all sorts of websites for everything. Then, like, suddenly they just all crashed and then they disappeared.
Okay.
We're going to see something similar with AI, where we're seeing all these weird and interesting use cases because, well, there's a lot of hype in the market, everybody's interesting, and everyone wants to see what's happening. But when we see people lose faith in AI, might happen in terms of, or if the economy has some issues and it just doesn't work out to just fund all sorts of different startups, we're probably going to see all of these use cases sort of go back, like pull back a bit. And then suddenly it's like, oh, we need writers. We don't want this AI written stuff anymore. We want
Okay.
actual writers.
Yeah.
They need to be human verified. There's going to be a whole business for verifying stuff that's made by human beings. So there's a whole future of that sort of thing existing that a lot of people are not seeing.
Okay. What should I do to stay relevant in the world of AI? Yeah.
Learn how to use it, understand how it works, and know its limitations. I think that's the biggest, most important skill that people need to understand with AI. I'm a software developer, so you can go from every kind of, like, it's a spectrum of how much you use it. You can go from I don't touch it, I never open it, to basically just saying, hey, ChatGPT, can you just generate the code and then you paste it on? Does it work? Great. Vibe coding. And I find that it's important to find the right balance, which involves using it in a way that you still have control. I like to think of the concept of theory of mind. So we have this idea that, when you're creating something, whether it's code or it's an idea, you should always be in control of what the final product should be and what it should look like and how it should feel. Well, when I code, for example, I have a very clear theory of mind of how I think the program should run.
Okay.
Like, what am I expecting it to do? I can use it to get some code or whatever, but at the end of the day, I inspect the whole list and I make sure that whatever I'm producing is written in I'd say the programming equivalent of it's written in my voice. I understand the logic. If you came to me next week and said, hey, could you explain this? I understand exactly what happened there. I was active in that creation.
Yeah.
Too much passive consumption, which is the biggest danger. It's fine. I sometimes, consume it passively as a gimmick or as a toy. Ask it silly questions. It's really funny. But I think when you're doing anything serious, it's all about always ensuring that you have control over what we call the theory of mind of whatever concept or product that you're producing.
Okay, so learn how to use it, know its limitations, have control of your products.
Yes.
Okay. Knowing its limitations, I think there's a very thin line between using it and depending on it to the extent that now it's affecting, I would say, human connection. So a simple example, I use ChatGPT a lot, or I use Pixie also. So before, I would text my best friend, like, I'm going to this and this. What should I wear and all that. Right now, I'll go to ChatGPT. I say, hey, Chatty, I'm thinking of wearing this and that and that and that. And Chatty will be like, this you look more calmed. This you look more vibrant. So I think that human connection, the things that I used to rely on people closest to me, and right now I feel like it's just something that you can paste it on ChatGPT. And I would say that was there before. Let's say Pinterest or Google, I would have done that. But the fact that ChatGPT has now a memory for my questions or my interests of not a very long time, like I think it's 30 days now, I'm not sure. It becomes like a relationship, I would say. So knowing the limitation, how do we then not depend on it to the fact that it affects the human connection?
That's a very hard one. That's a hard one because everybody's asking the same question, It's it's very hard to really distinguish, I think, sometimes. And I think the funniest part about this is that it has a lot to do with how our technology has progressed over time. If this was 2003 and you wanted to know what your friend thought of what you're wearing, the best you'd have to do is call them on your telephone and describe the dresses. And like, this one is pink, this one is red. Or they'd have to come over to your place. Like, hey, I'm getting dressed. Just could you come over early and then we'll go together? And they'd walk to your place. There was no Uber back then. And that was such a nice experience, wasn't it? And I feel like this is just one rung. Yeah, my analogy is about ladders today. One rung on that ladder that we've already been going on.
Okay.
You think about the fact that we text a lot more than we talk in person than we used to. And or sometimes we even just send reels to each other as a form of communication. And it means that now when you look at ChatGPT coming in, this is why that connection it's so easy to lose it. I found that what keeps me grounded is having a lot more in-person coffees with people. Meet up with them at some random place. I'll call my friend and say, hey, I'm just gonna come over to your place. I'll come with some beers and or some treats, and then we're just gonna chill and talk. And then we just chill and have a conversation. And then that means that it's harder for me to rely on ChatGPT for a lot of things because, well, I got my friends that I'm gonna talk to about it, and not texting, because texting then it's like a thing that she's just like, it can just slip you.
So you have to be really intentional on how you use it. It's like you have to do the work. Yes, you want to rely on AI. You want to know how it works. You want it to utilize it so that your time does more valuable things. But you also have to be very intentional in using it so that you don't lose that human connection. Interesting, because I'm relying on ChatGPT a lot these days. And the CEO of ChatGPT recently made a statement that I wonder why people trust ChatGPT a lot. And I was like, I'm those people who trust ChatGPT
We trust
a lot.
ChatGPT a lot, don't we? Yeah, no, I think that's why it's kind of weird for me. And I don't understand, because you see, you have to understand, like, I'm obviously going to come to it from a way totally different angle. When I was when I first heard about ChatGPT, it never occurred to me to have a conversation with it in that way that you've described. And the reason is because obviously when it came out, I went to understand how was this thing made, what is actually going on. So I learned the technical back-end sort of theory of what happened. And I thought, this is fascinating. But like I said, I would have never thought that it would be successful at what you're talking about. How is it able to imitate a human interaction in that way?
Yeah.
So when now that it's happening, I'm kind of also struggling to think of, outside of, like I said, the intentionality, but I'm struggling to even think of that concept. I've tried a couple of times to have a conversation. I've given my ChatGPT thing a name because it's funny. But yeah, it's still to me a tool. That's the problem. I see it as a tool.
You don't see it as... Okay, maybe because you understand.
Yes.
Yes. So for someone who's not in tech and doesn't understand it, they just use it the first time. And it's just like, oh, you can do that. And the response becomes very personal. It'll be like, hey, Becky, how's your day today? And you're like, okay, I've got a friend. So like any relationship, it keeps on building up. But I think because you've taken the time to understand how it works, so maybe you've had better luck at doing the boundaries. Yeah, but interesting. So what is among the insights that you've gained from using AI? Like, it's some things that you didn't know before and now like it's opening your mind.
It's going to be very silly though.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of strategy games.
Strategy?
Strategy games. So they're really fun. These fun little games where you have to plan stuff, and the AI always has really funny, interesting strategies. It'll say, do this, then do this, then do that. And I just follow it and see where things go. And I wouldn't be better. I won't lie to you. things will be on fire and everything, but it's fun because it's like managed chaos, and I love it. So I found insights. One insight that I found is actually one insight that I found is like perspective. With AI, you can sort of. I've never thought of how perspective is a huge element of the stuff that we do. You know, you just think of the concept of like going to an event, and what's the perspective? Are you going there to talk to a lot of people and be, chatty, or are you going to go there to just enjoy the music? I mean, these are things that feels very obvious, but it's just very fascinating to think that the concept of having those different perspectives can apply to a whole lot of different things.
Okay.
Think of like a prompt. If you give it a prompt, and we always have this little description of what how the prompt is meant to be interpreted. Like you'll say, "Hey, I want you to write a business plan, and the business plan should have A, B, and C." And then you'd have like a little part that says, "But you need to say it as if you're selling it to Donald Duck." As a little joke. And then it's the same thing. It's a business plan, but it's been tailored in such a way that it's trying to sell to Donald Duck. That kind of like small changes, but it's like it's just the perspective, but the thing is the same. So it opened my eyes to think like in my own life, I can sort of approach a lot of things in the same way.
Different. Oh yeah, you look at it just different in a different perspective, and it changes the whole thing. Yeah. Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've exhausted almost everything.
Really?
Yeah.
We've solved AI now.
We haven't solved AI. We got just more things to think about and see how best we can use it. Yeah. So maybe lastly, what is one bold hope you yourself have it with all the negatives that it's going to replace your job, it's this and that? What is the bold hope you yourself have for AI? I remember we've had this conversation and you said you one day, if you had all the money in the world, you create your own AI. So what is the bold hope that you have for AI that maybe others don't see it, or you wish to put on anyone who's like scared of?
The concept of post-scarcity. It's a very, very far-flung idea. Well, it was a very, very far-flung idea that was not realistic. The concept of a post-scarcity society is a society that is incapable of not producing enough of everything it needs. Economics, I'm very interested in economics as well, because economics is a study of finite needs, finite wants. No. Finite resources, infinite needs and wants. We want and need everything. But there's only so much. So we have to work. We have to have taxes. We have to have money. We have to have a whole society geared towards managing limited resources. But what if we could create a society in which those resources are not limited? There isn't a limit to what you can do. There isn't a cost to what you can do. Think about that's already happening, right? If you really think about it. And that's kind of why we're scared, because that process can, in the interim, be scary, because it feels like, think about how, like, right now, you can probably write an essay in like a few minutes. But in the past, you had to actually
Sit down for a long time.
And with essays, it's bad because we want essays to take a long time. We want people to think about what they're writing. We want to read people's words, But I don't really think I care that much if it was a human who swept the floor or if it was a robot that swept the floor. And obviously, when that's happening now, obviously, we're all very concerned about the person who the job they had was to sweep the floor. But they can't do that anymore because the robot's doing that. But when you get to the point where that's happened so much, you can create enough food, you can create enough, you can build houses automatically in days or weeks with robots. You can you can build new cities in months with robots, and they can mine, they can create the phones, they can create the everything, and you can just be at home and write an essay.
But ChatGPT will be writing an essay for you.
I'm not gonna read that essay, and you're not gonna read that essay. We're gonna want essays from each other.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna do it for the AI. We're gonna write it to each other. That's the kind of hope that I have of a future that looks like that.
So things are going to be simplified in a different way, but also some things will evolve that will value more other things. Like the way you say it, like I would want to read an essay written by a human being, but I don't care if a robot is sweeping. So, okay, I get your point. Nice.
And then nobody has to sweep the floors. Nobody has to do anything. So people don't really have to work in the way that we think of work today to survive. We just sort of, it's post-scarcity. There isn't any scarcity. There's no need to worry about any of that. Things are freely available. I think of the concept of like air. We take it for granted to the point that it's not a thought process. But if you started a colony in Mars, air becomes a very important concept, you see?
Yeah.
So think of a world in which everything else is like air. Food is readily available. You can press a button, a machine will freaking make you a burger. Boom, it's healthy. And you're happy. And we just make videos and movies and music and
Just
podcasts.
sit and talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, chilled. Okay, if you look at it like that, it's going to be a chilled environment. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Dion. So I think we are coming to the end of our conversation. So if you have any question for me.
I want to know, how much did you expect AI to change your life when you first understood what it was? And the second question is, how much of that has changed over time?
So the first one, I expected AI to change my life in a work context. I felt it was more in my job rather than my personal life. Yeah, so I thought it would make my work better. I'll do the thinking. Yeah, there's some things like routine works that I don't have to do. There's a lot of routine works, there's a lot of admin works that I don't have to do anymore. So I thought my work life is going to be easier. Not necessarily replace me, but it's just my work is going to be easier. But then over time, that has changed. It has not only been work, even my personal life. Yeah, so it's not just on work. It's the stupidest ideas that I would have. I would share it with AI, and it would polish it to something that is actually possible. So before it was work, now it's everything. There's the AI tool Pixie. It has so much like ideas, like this, as simple as I would take a picture of my living room and I would say, I don't like the way my living room looks. I want to redecorate. And then I will go to Okadeco. I'll take a picture and then it would arrange my living room for me. So I know what to buy based on what I've seen, not like I've taken a picture. So I have it beforehand before I buy it. So I didn't think that was possible. Before it was just my work, but now it's also affecting in a positive way, my personal life. Yeah.
That's really fascinating. I love the interior decor.
Yeah. Thanks, Dion. Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot.
Rebecca.
I know you said you have a barbecue today, but it's a good start. You're here, then after that, you go to relax. So it's a good one. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking your time. If you see that we resonate with you and you're scared for AI or you're wondering, is it going to replace you? Tap in and listen to this conversation. Share it with other people. Follow, subscribe wherever you're watching it. And yeah, let's see what AI can do for us and how we can collaborate with it. Thank you.